Hello and welcome back to this countdown of the top 85 games for the BBC Micro, at least according to me. We're going to be looking at game number 82 in this video, and it's a famous game. Pretty much everybody, whether they're into gaming or not, has heard of Snake. And of course, there are many variations and platforms that this game has been developed for. We're going to be looking at one particular version of Snake in this video, which is the very first version of Snake I ever played. It came out as part of a Acornsoft compilation called Fun Games, which came with 4 games, of which Snake was one. I believe it was also published in collaboration with BBC Soft. You can see their logo up there in the top right corner. But Snake has an interesting history, actually. So the sort of first game, if you like, that could be sort of traced back to the origins of Snake was produced by Gremlin. It came in an arcade cabinet, and the game was called Blockade from 1976. Um, the basic concept of Blockade was to guide your, well, it was never actually officially called a snake. I think it was designed to be a sort of brick wall that just continued to grow. But anyway, the idea was to trap your opponent inside your wall. A very similar concept, actually, to what was later used in the 1982 movie Tron with the light cycles. It's an amazing film, by the way, if you've never seen it before. But Snake, at least the version that I played on the BBC Micro, it had an additional concept which owes its origins to Roccola's Nibbler game from 1982, again an arcade cabinet game. Now, Nibbler was a bit different because it involved a maze, but it did see the development of a snake-like character which would grow as you consumed food around the maze. So the combination of the blockade concept from 1976 coupled with the food and growing snake concept of Nibbler from 1982 gives rise to the sort of version of Snake that most of us are familiar with. And we're going to be looking at, as I said, my first ever version of Snake that I ever played from Acornsoft's Fun Games. So let's dive in. So let's load up Snake. Here we are, copyright Acornsoft 1982. Some brief instructions here explaining how the game works. Now this variation of Snake comes with 3 lives, which is something to bear in mind. Some other versions obviously were less generous than that, and you just had 1 life and you got whatever score you could manage before you died. Simple instructions here, classic beep, Z and X for left and right, and the up down with forward slash and colon. Fast or slow game, we're going to go with a slow game and see how we get on. Nice little klaxon there to indicate the start of the game. Now I'm going to just avoid that food for a second just to show another little interesting thing about this game is that the food gets smaller the longer it takes for you to reach it, which I think is quite fun. Now you can obviously appreciate that this is, graphically speaking, very simplistic, but we have moved away from the use of simple character set stuff that we saw in Meteoroids. We are actually at least using block-based graphics now. And this is Snake. I mean, most people will be familiar with this game. I think a lot of people will remember it from the early mobile phones. Nokia used to bundle Snake on every handset that they sold, going right up until fairly recently, actually. In fact, when I first saw Snake on a mobile phone, I do remember thinking, well, that's nothing new. You know, I was playing that on the BBC Micro back in the 80s, and it's a fairly classic game. But it says something about the addictiveness, I think, of Snake as a game, that even though it is deceptively simple from a conceptual point of view, it's actually very playable. You can waste many hours actually playing Snake, because it just keeps on going, and the better that you are at the game, the longer you can make it last. Now you can see at the top there, as I'm eating the food, my score is gradually going up. The life counter, interestingly, goes forwards rather than backwards, and most life counters will start with your total number of lives, and then the number decreases as you lose lives. Interestingly, this version of Snake, for some reason, it starts on life 1 and then goes up to 2, 3, and then obviously once 3 has been spent, it's game over for Snake. So not doing too badly at the moment. I am on obviously the slow version of Snake, so you would expect that I'm not going to have too many disasters. But yeah, it's got some nice little sound effects too. It's not a completely silent game, no background music, but we do get some nice little effects as he eats his food. Getting dangerously close to the edge there. Now, as I was saying in the introduction, we've got both the concept of Nibbler here, that as I eat the food I get bigger, but there's also the blockade concept that I can't hit the outer perimeter, and I also mustn't hit my own snake body, otherwise I will meet a grisly end. Ah, there we go. Tried to maneuver too slowly there. That didn't quite work. Now you can see that the length of my snake has carried over, so even though I've lost a life there, and I've counterintuitively gone up to life 2, the snake is still the same length that it was. Now if we can manage to get 400 points before all our lives are spent, oh dear, I'm not going to be able to get to that, am I? It does give you an extra life, but obviously that's a fair amount of food to eat before you reach the heady heights of 400, and I don't think I'm going to be able to reach that in time. Oh, it's quite a tragic little beep there when it, oh dear, no, hang on, that's not going to work, is it? Let's see if we can get back round this way. Oh, the food's disappearing. Oh, there you go, just managed it. So, still keeping my snake alive at the moment. Let's see how much further we can get. Ooh. I have to say, when the food is that small, I do sometimes wonder, is it really worth the effort of getting there in time before it disappears? But, oh dear, that's very difficult to reach. I'm going to have to really go just to the edge there. Ooh, there we go. Now, I have to say, whether or not this is by accident or design, the fact that the food and the snake are the same color in this blue and white grid leads to some interesting problems, particularly when the food gets placed too close to the snake body, because it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to tell what the fastest route to the food actually is. Now, in this case, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get there. No, I don't think I'm. No, it's gone. Gosh, it's really not helping me here, is it? Whoa, dear. I did hit the X key there, but obviously it didn't quite register. Must have not hit it sufficiently hard enough for it to register there. Well, we're on to life 3 now, so our snake is not long for this world, unfortunately. But 294 points. Only need another 106 before I could potentially get an extra life. Different game, of course, but I have to say that food looks deceptively like a bit of Tetris there. There we go. Oh dear. So yes, I mean, I think the fact that the food, I mean, it's sort of nondescript as to what it is, but there's something quite graceful, I guess, about the simplicity of the graphics here. Really, this is very much a game that is all about gameplay. This isn't anything fancy. Oh, and that is... That's the end of my snake. It's rather a sort of jolly piece of music, actually, for the end of a game, but quite nice to have a bit of music in there as well, I think. Now, we've got press spacebar for restart, but that's going to put us back onto slow mode, so I think what I'm going to do is just come out, reload, and we'll try it on fast mode just to give Snake a full outing. Okay, let's go fast and see how we do here. Oh wow, that that really is quite fast. Wow. Okay, I don't think I don't think I'm going to last very long here. Wow. I thought I'm not sure that I ever played it on fast mode as a child because I think I would have just given up in frustration. Wow, this is really fast. I have to say that's pretty impressive for a Beeb because the speed and responsiveness as well to the commands. Gosh, whoa my, this is very difficult. Well, this is a true challenge, I've got to say. I'm not sure that I've ever played it on fast mode before now, and looking at it, I mean, this is remarkably quick. Oh gosh, yeah, you have no room for error if you don't manage to get the food on the first attempt. You are gonna probably. Whoa, no. Well, I think I think that's all there is to say about fast mode. To be honest with you, that was pretty buzzy. But just goes to show that the old games still have a little bit of juice left in them. So I hope you've enjoyed that. That was a review of Snake, which I've rated in at game number 82. I think it's got a fine legacy as computer games go. It's one of those games that many people are familiar with. It didn't start its life on the BBC Micro, but I think that this version of it is a definite contender for sort of definitive Snake. There have been others since, some with better graphics, but for me this holds a soft spot in my heart because it's the first version I ever played of Snake, and it's the version I always think of even when I see other versions of the game. So yeah, it's come in at number 82. Graphically speaking, nothing special. It does have a few nice sound effects, but the gameplay is really what it's all about here, and that's probably all there is to say. So I hope you'll join me next time for game number 81. For now, goodbye.